Hello and welcome to episode 38 of the Gender Nebulous podcast. I am Vicky Hodges and my lovely co-host today is Miss Freda Wallace.
Hiya, how you doing?
Hi, how are you?
Well, we've missed a couple of episodes, haven't we? Because
We have. We've been a bit busy and you've had a couple of medical things going on.
I've had an exciting medical appointment, so because I'm going to get a bit of surgery next month.
Oh.
So yeah.
Any more details for now?
Well, you know what that is. You know, I'm gonna go from an A cup to a double D.
You go for an enhancement.
Yeah, enhancement into turbo drive. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
Hey,
So yeah. So I need some time off work for that.
Indeed.
And I'll need a lift there and back. So thanks, Vicky,
Yeah.
for being my
call an Uber.
ambulance. It makes change somebody else be in the ambulance, and hopefully nothing will go wrong.
Oh, can I borrow your ambulance? Can I drive the
In
ambulance?
transit. Yeah.
Can I drive the ambulance?
No, I'm really excited about it because the thing is, I was thinking about it for ages, and I was in two minds. I thought, oh, I'll see how the hormones go, and it's like, but because I thought, oh, do I really need to do it? It's a lot of money. I thought, yeah, why not? You know, I'm just going to do it because it's what I want.
If it's what you want, then it gives you a
And
confidence
I'm not
boost,
getting
why
any
not?
younger. I'm
Why
not getting
not?
any young. And so I thought I'm going to do it. So there we are. That's where I'm at. And I've had to go for blood tests, and I've got a pre-op and all that business to look forward to.
So was there any complications with getting approvals for being trans?
No, but all they wanted really, because I was worried I might need a GRC. Well, they
I
don't
don't think
need that.
you wouldn't need that, but you might have needed some letter or something.
No, they just
how
need
kind
the
of
They
treat
just
us.
needed, all she asked me for is you need to have a GP's letter and an up-to-date blood test, and then the gender clinic of my diagnosis of gender dysphoria.
Okay, so they did want something just to.
But I had all that
paperwork
ready
wise.
for them just in case. So it's quite simple, really. I mean, I don't see why they should need that. I mean, it's like if I was female, if I was anybody else who was getting any other procedure, I wouldn't have to prove who I am. I wouldn't have to prove I'm genuinely female.
Yeah,
I
so
wouldn't have to
extra
prove-
hoops to jump through because you're trans.
It's just another fail-safe for them because, I mean, I understand why they do it. You know, some people can regret things, but people can regret all kinds of things, can't they? It's got nothing to do with your gender, you know. I could go and get a tattoo tomorrow and regret it the day after. It's not going to stop them doing it.
No.
So it's just a bit of feels like a bit of a gatekeeping exercise.
Sounds like it.
There we are. That's where I got through it anyway. I got through it. I got over the cattle grid to the world of boob.
The world of boob. Right. Excellent.
But you see, the thing is that, what I was going to say is, I was thinking, am I doing this for the right reasons? You know, am I doing it out of vanity? Am I doing it because is it purely about looks, or is it something? But yeah, I am vain, and I do enjoy looking good, so that's why I'm doing it.
Well, I think that's
Nothing
pretty much
wrong
the
with
reason
that.
that anybody would have that op, isn't it? It's for confidence, really. Confidence booster. Make yourself feel good.
Yeah, and I want to look good, and I can't wait to wear like a dress that's low cut and
You have to get a whole new wardrobe
call me
now,
shallow. Yeah, what?
You have to get a whole new wardrobe.
No, I've got some good stuff. You know, I might have to alter a few things at the front, but.
So how did you decide on the size? Because that's the big question, isn't it?
It was really funny actually, because I was in the what do you call it, medical room, and he put a bra on me and he said, right, try this, and he kept going high, bigger and bigger, and I was like, no, go bigger. Because I thought it's not going to be any cheaper the smaller you get.
No, it's the same cost, isn't it?
So I thought I might as well get my fucking money's worth.
So you've gone for what?
500cc. When it said
Is that the maximum you can have?
I think so. Because it depends. Because I've got my growth through hormones, I say, is a B cup, right? So that's
So
not
you're going to
a
go
lot.
from a B to a D?
A double D.
Double D.
Yeah, I think so. I think when it said 500cc, I started thinking about motorbikes. a Yamaha 250 and
So
the
that's a
Ducati
litre.
5.
You're going to have a litre.
Yeah. And
Obviously,
the
because
thing
you're
I
doing two,
noticed
right?
straight away, because they use the actual implant type silicone to put into the bra, but fucking hell, it's heavy. It felt heavy, and I thought, well, yeah, that's something you're going to have to get used to. And like when I was talking to my friend Joe, who's a double G, she goes, "Oh, you left, yeah, don't moan to me about that." Anyway, enough about my
Yes, well, it's exciting news.
boob ambitions.
Boob ambitions, the ambitions of boobs. Right. So, shall we proceed with the news?
We shall.
Okay.
It's been an interesting week, hasn't it? I think.
Yeah. Well, when I looked at how many stories I had over 27, and I've cut it down to 8. It was there's just so many, and most of them were.
Well, you see, the big news really.
Most of them were about what's been going on in Australia and New Zealand. So.
Well, we're going to have to touch on that.
We'll touch on that.
I'm going to pepper the other topics with bits of that because
Yeah.
I think it's all related to. I mean,
that's been the main thing going on this week, I think. In
what's happened to
news.
me, to my eyes, right? What's happened here is the media in Australia and New Zealand are not like ours. They observe things and report what they see.
Yeah, they seem to be reporting the truth, which is unusual for us Brits.
And what's happened to Callie, J. Keane, Posie Parker, Minso, whatever she's calling herself this week?
Posie Parker, isn't it?
Whatever she thinks she is and tells her followers she is, she's clearly not that. And they know she's not that. They just go. They see her as some kind of like.
So we should. This is the continuation of the tour that started in the US, and she's now done Australia, and she's doing New Zealand currently. Where's she going next? I think she'll probably pack it in after this one.
Well, her next date was supposed to be in Dublin on the 15th of April.
Was it?
And I don't know if that's going to happen. If it does, I'd be surprised.
I'd be surprised.
But she's one of those people, isn't she? She's always saying, "I will win," and I don't take no for an answer and all this. So she's probably just daft enough to go and carry on.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, she's propelled by her own ego more than anything. And I think that's got her into this mess, really, because like when I watched it live last night on YouTube, and because obviously the point of view is a phone camera. So when she gets to the event and you see all those people, there must be like 2,000 people there. You'd think that might be the point where she goes, "Oh God,
yeah,
this ain't going to work out well for me, and I don't like soup."
I'm just hoping it was Campbell's because I know how you like art. So it should really be Campbell's soup, I think. It's
interesting the role soup plays in protest, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, you see, there was a moment, right? Honestly, I was watching last night, and I was watching her, and there was a moment I had this kind of pang of guilt about guilt about egging people on to go for her and stuff, because in that moment she was really fucking vulnerable, and if it wasn't, she had security, but she obviously hadn't paid enough for security because they could not protect her from that crowd. Now they got her out and they got her in a police car. Now see, what should have happened there is the police should have arrested her, because that is all her. The reason all those people are there and the reason there's that agitation, the only reason
she's been stoking it up for weeks,
is because she's created that. She can't turn around and then say, "Oh, these people are coming for me."
You can't show up in someone's town and start preaching hate and expect to get away with it. I mean, that's not reality.
No. And if she even if she had a noble cause, even if she had like a cause that was just and she was fighting injustice, or she was fighting tyranny, which she isn't, she's part of tyranny. Even in that case, you would have to be bloody careful about where you go and not expect everybody to. You know what I mean? I don't know what she expects, to be honest, but I think she expected some support, and there was none.
Yeah, well, God knows where it goes next from here with what's going on.
Well, I think she's gonna. My prediction is that her usual followers are going to spin it as a victory, no matter what. They're going to find the instances where
she'll be portrayed as the victim.
Oh yeah, definitely. And there are a couple of photos where, like I said, I started to think, oh God, she looks like she's in trouble here, and they will prey on that and they will exploit that. But really, there were women harmed at other events where the security manhandled them to the ground.
Wasn't there a New Zealand or Australian MP that was manhandled to the ground?
Yeah, there
Yeah.
was. I forgot her name now. Terrible with names. But yeah, that happened. And there was another person that had the mic snatched off her and a hand put around her mouth.
Yeah,
A
somebody was
previous one.
choked by one of the
Yeah.
security
So
people.
there's, they're not gonna focus on that.
No. And the reason why she's there and what she's doing, I mean, that's what's causing the problem. It's not the
Yeah.
fact that anti-hate
Well, I read
protesters show up and protest against her. I mean, they're entitled to do that.
there's a couple of articles come out. One from the Guardian, one from the Daily Mail. And to be fair, I mean they're fairly badly worded. Like they don't really describe what the motives are of Callie J. Keane, but they do offer a bit more balance than usual because they show the actual right-wing factions and who is aligned to Kelly now, and I think that's a change because there's no getting away from it. There's no hiding from what you're associated with. She could say, "Oh, I can't control who follows me. I can't control who turns up," but she's never called that out. She's never discouraged it. We know she actively does encourage it.
She could stop touring.
Exactly, yeah, because she must know.
She knows what's coming. You know, it's not a surprise.
See, all this stuff about speaking for women, standing for women, women's spaces, women's sports, women's prisons, it's all just a front for, it's a shoe-in for exclusionary behaviour. And we've known that. We've known that ever since we saw it coming, And I think a lot of the press have. It's just they've chosen to ignore it.
Yeah, right. I'm going to bring the topics into the screen now.
I'll continue a little bit about
yeah,
that.
because I think it's the second story anyway. So this first one, I think we spoke about this previously. Mm-hmm. This was the thing that's going on in Uganda, where their parliament was passing an anti-LGBTQ bill to make it illegal and punishable with jail time. So I think this had gone through Parliament and has been voted in, and it's just pending approval of the Ugandan president, which is that guy there, Yoweri Museveni, I think he's called. Sounds like Mussolini. It would be probably more appropriate.
But it's sad that this is like voted in, like what voted by who exactly? You know what I mean?
Well, it's the Ugandan Parliament, isn't it? I mean, the Uganda government has approved the anti-homosexuality bill that would make it illegal to identify as LGBTQ, and anyone found guilty of doing so could face up to 20 years in jail. So the interesting thing that's happened since we first spoke about this was that the US has come out and said that if it's signed into law by the president, that Uganda might be facing sanctions from the US.
Right.
So that would be a serious thing for them to face. Have you ever actually looked on a map of Africa and seen where Uganda is?
I think we did, didn't we?
It's kind of right in the middle on the right. I was looking at
Rwanda.
Yeah, well, I was going to say Rwanda is the bottom left of Uganda, and Rwanda's a really tiny little place. I didn't realise it was so small. It's like 10% the size of Uganda. It just makes you wonder, what the UK government's doing in Rwanda. Why on earth would they choose that tiny little place in Africa?
Well, obviously,
and they have similar anti-LGBT laws, not as bad as Uganda yet.
But they're colonial roots.
These colonial roots, yeah.
And it's that's why they have these kind of laws. It's like they're not like historic. They don't go back in.
No, but why did they choose that one in Africa? Why didn't they choose the Falkland Islands? Why didn't they choose Gibraltar? Why didn't they choose one of the other?
Yeah.
Territories. Oh no, let's choose that one in Africa.
It is an interesting question, and I don't know the answer.
I mean, what is the reasoning behind choosing that particular spot? I don't know. I'm totally against anything
What's
to do with
interesting is it that I
moving
never
people
knew,
out of the country who are applying for asylum to be here.
yeah, I didn't know
Totally
anything about
obnoxious.
Rwanda until I heard about that story. And then I heard people say, well, what's wrong with Rwanda? Are you saying Rwanda's a bad place? Are you saying Rwanda's a horrible place to be? It's like, no, it's like nowhere. Anywhere is a bad place to be
It
if
doesn't
you're
have a
forced to
great
go.
record for rights,
Like,
human rights, but let's put it that way.
but it's like, it reminds me of when people used to be sent to Australia for committing crimes. You know, it's like, what this idea of deportation.
No, but the thing is, we probably get requests from people who live in Rwanda to come and live in the UK because life is difficult there, but yet we're sending people there. Or we haven't done yet, but we're trying to. It's just madness. Madness.
Well, that's not going to happen. It's just those stories to me just seem like stories to pacify these nationalistic Brexit people who demand something happens about
Yeah,
small
they still
boat.
haven't actually managed to get anybody there, have they?
You know, it's not even the massive problem that is the news makes it out to be. I mean,
But
it's
have you heard
horrible
today the news about what they're planning next for the immigration camps they've got in the UK? You know, like everybody's being kept in hotels at the moment.
Yeah, they're going to put them in Portland.
Well, no, what they're talking about now is moving them all into military camps.
Yeah.
And disused ferry boats.
Gosh.
Imagine that.
Well, I don't know if there's a practical solution because no matter what you do, it has to be paid for.
Well,
right?
You can imagine the state of a disused ferry boat. It's disused because it's probably a knackered old boat that's going to get scrapped. And it's probably parked up in some dry dock somewhere or some, harbour somewhere, not being used. They're gonna unmothball those things and house people inside them. They probably don't even have cabins in them. It's probably just like seating and stuff. I mean,
well, what I'd do is unmoor the boat.
Unbelievable.
Sail somewhere else. The government seems to be like.
I think it's cheap to keep people on a boat. I mean, it needs heating. It needs sanitary stuff. It's like they just don't think these things through, do they? It's like it'd be some person who owns some boats that's part of the Tory party who thinks, oh, I've got some boats. Let's make some money.
Yeah, probably. There's probably be an outsourcing contract somewhere.
Exactly. Millions of pounds to house people in boats, and the problem with the hotels, which is also costing like £5 million a day. Well, that's not important because we need to get them all into these boats now to support our mates.
Yeah, there'll be a contract involved in that somewhere.
Yeah, definitely.
But somebody once told me, you have these places like Butlins, holiday camps and things like that, and they don't make a lot of money, in certain times of year, but the government subsidises them in case of catastrophes. So they can
house people at them?
Yeah, that's part of a government scheme, and that's why immigrants end up in these kind of places, because they make it out that they're putting them in luxury hotels, like 5-star hotels. That's like the Daily Mail line, but that's not the case, is it? They're putting them wherever they can. And unfortunately,
I think it's like George and Mildred's bed and breakfast kind of places.
They create tension because they come into already poor areas, so it creates this tension where people think, oh, well, why are these people being kept in a hotel while I'm struggling and doing it? It's like the immigrants are not your problem, mate. It's the government.
Exactly.
Well, they make it sound like, oh God,
I know.
It's the same story with any kind of demonization.
Yeah.
There's always this perceived threat that something.
I mean, they don't talk about let's fix the immigration system. They don't talk about that. They just think, oh, we're just going to transfer these people from hotels to boats, from hotels to Rwanda, from hotels to military camps. I mean, what?
At the heart of it, though, there is a definite rise in immigration. It's a lot of factors. There's like lots of global instability.
You look at what's going on around the world. It's hardly surprising.
Yeah, but then it becomes like a sort of which immigrants do you prefer? Because when they're doing that Rwanda scheme, not the Rwanda scheme, sorry, the Ukrainian scheme where you could, they're asking families if you wanted to adopt a Ukrainian. It was like, oh well, this is great. Let's all get involved.
So why don't they do that for all people who are seeking immigration?
Because it's to do with the colour of the skin. It's like, if they come from the Middle East, if they come from, they're associated with terrorism. If they come from, and it's like it's a cultural barrier. It's like if it's Europe, Ukraine, it's Europe, so it's everything's all right because they're not going to bomb us. It's like, well, nobody's.
Yeah, there's definitely a racist thing going on as well.
And then you get these stories, horrific stories of somebody that's come over here from Afghanistan or Syria, and they've actually, they have been part of a terrorist plot. So it's really hard for most people on the ground, like in those poor areas, to think, oh, why should we be putting up with this? It's because they found this isolated incident where somebody is a terrorist.
Yeah,
it's very frightening. I don't know. I mean, like we talk about these things just as kind of passing, we see these passing things to these, but this has been going on for years now. This is like one of Nigel Farage's big campaigns is to stop boats coming across, and he's been going on about it for years, and nothing has changed. Brexit didn't change anything. Brexit hasn't stopped.
Made it worse. Made it worse.
It stopped the people we actually need to come here. People that were doing some of the manual work and like in the service
the people
industry.
We need.
And it stopped them coming, but it's not stopped the immigration he thought it was stopping.
No, it's not.
So my attitude was like, well, you know what?
I mean, if people need protection, we should offer it to everybody who needs it. I mean, it's this kind of pick and choose based on who they are and what it's just nonsense.
It's bonkers, isn't it? That just a bit of water between France and England could be that distance could be the deciding factor whether somebody lives or dies. And I think it just blows my mind that somebody wouldn't offer somebody, a bit of sympathy in that moment.
Exactly.
Do you know? People standing on beaches in the south of England shouting at people on, you know what I mean? There were people protesting on the beaches saying we don't want, as if they were like an invading army. But that's the way
that's the way it's portrayed, though, isn't it?
Like I've heard presenters on talk radio talk about, the fighting age men are coming over. It's like, well, what does that mean, fighting age? What, any man between 15 and 30, so they're suddenly a fighter because they're. And they'll say, why are the women and children not coming over here? Why is it always the men? Well, tell you what, if you had a choice of sending somebody to England, who would you send first? Somebody who's fit enough to make that journey, or would you send a child and a woman first? Because that's what it comes down to. It's not because they have some kind of nefarious intention. It's because their families realise, like, if the man goes first, he's fit, and if anything happens, you've still got the child. And traditionally, obviously, the child needs the mother more if they're young children.
Yeah.
And it's like,
we've gone down a bit of an immigration rabbit hole here.
Yeah, but that's it, isn't it? Like, even when my sister and my brother-in-law moved to the Isle of Man, my brother-in-law went first because he needed to go and sort the house out and do all that. Yeah, no,
I understand. Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what people do. It's like, and if say if me or you was going to go and live in, say, America or Canada, we'd probably gravitate to where there was a bit of a British family, maybe, or somebody.
Or if you've got friends there, you'd go and talk to them and
like
maybe go and stay with them for a while. I've done that.
When these people go on and live in Spain from England, where do they go and live? They don't go and live in the backwaters.
No, they go and live in a town or a place that's got loads of Brits in it.
And a pub.
Yeah.
Sells baked beans. Sells beans on toast. Anyway,
right. So let's continue our tour. We're currently in where are we? We're in Uganda. We're now off to Australia.
Wow, that's a bit of a jump, isn't it?
Bit of a jump, yeah. So this second story: trans flag flown over Victoria Government building after Nazi salute by Posie Parker rally.
That's great.
So, in support of trans community, the Australian state of Victoria has raised a trans flag outside government offices in support of the community after an anti-trans event attracted extremists performing Nazi salutes. Anti-trans campaigner Kayleigh J. Minshall, also known as Posie Parker, as we know, or otherwise known as Posie Parker, held her Let Women Speak event on Saturday 18th of March in Melbourne, Victoria. was attended around 400 demonstrators and around 30 neo-Nazis. So I thought it was this. The reason it caught my eye is because the Victoria government had come out and put the flag up on the building. I thought that was a really great way to show support while this was going on.
Why doesn't our government learn from this? Because it's no different to me, right? I think what's happened really is that in Australia they've got a much better media, so they've been reporting about Kelly J. Keen's visit much more realistically, and they will report it. Whereas our British media and the BBC are included in this, they either ignore things or they take the other side. And what happened in I can't remember where it was now, but there was a couple of rallies. I think it might have been Brighton, where there's a group called Arts of Oak. And Arts of Oak are one of Tommy Robinson's organisations. I don't think he's associated with them now, but he started it. And they're like a xenophobic right-wing organisation. And they turned up at one of Kelly Keen's rallies last year.
Yeah.
Now, nobody in our British press, very few, I don't think you'll find any Daily Mail article, you won't find a Guardian article, you won't find a BBC News report. None of them reported that. Now, it might be because Arts of Oak are not really a big organisation. They don't wear black and they don't do brazen Nazi salutes, right? So that's probably why that didn't make the news. But we are talking about it. Trans people are talking about it. There were quite prominent trans journalists and LGBT. PinkNews certainly mentioned it.
Yeah.
So why does it not come into why can't our wider media report that? And that's the problem. So Kelly, Keen can get away with doing this stuff and distancing herself from it.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how much of what happened yesterday gets reported in the British press, because I've not seen it on main TV news.
Well, there's been a Daily Mail report.
No, but has it been on BBC, ITV, Channel 4 News?
No, because I don't think she's got that kind of... I don't think she has that kind of presence here.
No, it's been on the main news in the countries where it's happening.
Yeah, I know. It's
you would think it would be. I mean, just to get back to this article, I mean, the state premier, Dan Andrews, quickly denounced the Nazi gathering, claiming, I wish it had to be said, but it clearly does. Nazis aren't welcome, not on Parliament steps, not anywhere. So, yeah, I mean, they see it for exactly what it is, and they've come out and, in strong support of trans people and put the trans flag up on the building, which is good to see.
It was a very extreme gesture, wasn't it?
It was.
What happened. But you see, what I'm worried about is she lives off the publicity. Right now, she's gone to another level now, because she was sort of bubbling under the surface for a long time. Actually, she had been on some talk programs like daytime TV in this country when she was a bit more moderate, and as she's got more and more extreme, she's been on like Talk TV, and I've actually requested Talk TV to let me speak with her when she's on, but she backed out. And I worry that she's going to use this to her advantage in a way, because sometimes if she's not done anything illegal, she could continue to do these rallies and trans people will continue to turn up and fight with her and her supporters. Now, that isn't a good thing, because you're creating a pitched battle.
Yeah, and it's obviously escalating at the moment.
And it escalates and it becomes a battle between two rival factions and doesn't really help anyone out. I understand why people oppose her violently, and I understand why people want to grab the mic and, throw soup on her and stuff like that. But I'll go back to what happened in Glasgow with the cabaret against fascism, or I think it was called. And I think that is the way to deal with it, because if everybody starts going in there and fighting with her and throwing things, and that's what she wants. That's part of what.
It was cabaret, wasn't it?
That was it. And I think, it's really difficult, because you can't control crowds. Once a crowd is angry and once a crowd, there's going to be violence, and we saw it.
Well, you could see in those videos yesterday the violence.
Yeah.
was kind of escalating.
And then what people can do is both sides it, because they
Yeah.
can see, haha, the trans activists are
This is the
fighting
problem. It can be, it can be used like that.
and there's no both sides, because it's all
But you've got to,
manufactured.
but you have to stand up against her as well. What needs to happen is the government needs to step in and say, no, you're not doing that.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So this thing with the flag, putting the flag up on in Victoria, our government need to do something like that. The problem we've got is our opposing parties, the Labour Party, they don't give a toss, because there would be people in that party ordinarily that would be the people saying, because of Tory party rhetoric, because of the stuff that Rishi Sunak has been saying, because of the stuff that people, on the right are saying, which, we're coming out of Tufton Street and all that, but they can't, because there are people on the other side like Rosie Duffield, who were Labour politicians, who were saying exactly the same thing. So it's really difficult.
And then you look at what's going on in Paris this week. This is over increasing the pension age from 62 to 64, and half of Paris is on fire now.
Exactly. That's how we should be doing things.
So look how the French do it. I think we need to learn something from that.
I did comment on that on Twitter, because I thought, if you think this is about pensions, you've got another thing coming, because that might have been the issue.
That was the trigger.
That might have been the trigger issue. But you see the young people on the streets there, and they're fighting. The police brutality there is disgusting, and that's what those people are fighting, because their poverty, they're in a similar economic situation to we are with the neoliberals in Paris, in France, because they know their middle class, their upper middle class, haven't suffered at all after COVID. They are truly in a unemployment situation. It's like the economy is tanking, and that's what it's about, and while it's like, on one hand, I thought, why are you burning this beautiful city down? That's kind of one point you could look at it, but it's like, well, this is people. This is how people react when there's nothing to lose.
Yeah. When
people reach that point where there's like, what, fucking no point of return now, that's when you get stuff like that happening. And the BBC are very careful to report stuff like that. Have you noticed? Because it's escalate. It can escalate, and it can be.
Yeah, it can. And then old Charlie's trip was cancelled, wasn't it?
Yeah, that would have been an interesting one, wouldn't it? Because he was supposed to visit Versailles, wasn't he? Which is a bit of
a story around protest with that one.
Yeah. They're about to get the guillotines out. The National Razor, as it was called, the Razor National. But you see, I do not condone. I do condone violence to a point, to be honest, but I don't condone that madness of crowds. When something gets to a certain point where you're fighting the police, and the police are beating people up, and it's like.
Well, interestingly, some of the police in Paris were actually on the side of the protesters yesterday.
That's
because they understand the situation too,
Well,
some of the firefighters and the police were actually on the sides of the protesters.
But it's in these times like this when you get really dangerous political.
Yeah, and we're heading into summer. It's only going to get worse. This year is going to be pretty bad.
You've heard of Le Pen, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
Marine Le Pen. Now she is.
Macron is only in there by the skin of his teeth at the moment. I can't see it lasting.
Europe has never felt more destabilized to me, and it's a dangerous game because, oh God, there's. When I've been looking, I'm no expert in global politics or anything like that. I just look at what I see on the news, and I read glancingly on, and I think about it's like a chess game between Russia and the West, and then China and Taiwan, and I think, gosh, it's like it's not like a chess game anymore. It's more like a game of Kaplunk, where it's just one thing. One person's going to pull the wrong straw. You know what I mean? It's like that's how it feels, but I don't know where it's gonna. I just feel like it's this like powder keg of and the stuff that's happening to us we that's just a fringe. That's just like a little burning edge of that. Because if you look at what's happening with immigration, you look at what's happening with other.
What's happening in the States, what's happening here. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. This next story comes with another trigger warning because it's about suicide. I think I wasn't sure whether we should mention these kind of stories, but then I'm thinking we should, because we need to recognise individuals and we shouldn't shy away from that.
Well, I think we need to talk about it because there's been too many of these. I mean, I know Brianna wasn't a suicide, but it was a death that affected us all. So whenever we see a trans death now, we know it's not like an isolated incident. It has connections to pressure and political wrangling and all the stuff we talk about. So that's why I think we should talk about it, because all these things are connected, aren't they? Like how trans people are treated.
So this is Kayleigh Scott, a flight attendant with United Airlines, trans person, died by suicide. I'll just read kind of the story. Transgender United flight attendant who once fronted a powerful campaign video for the airline has tragically taken her life. Kayleigh Scott, who shared her story for a 2020 Trans Day of Visibility video made by United, explained in an Instagram post she was planning to take her life. Followers attempted to reach out to Kayleigh by requesting for a local welfare check, but it was later confirmed that she'd passed away. So I think she was based in Colorado in the States, and had become, quite well known for sharing a story of working on, United and being on their social media feeds. And I've watched the video that she did. It was really kind of a positive, corporate thing, trans inclusion, and because we're coming up to Trans Day of Visibility next week, so it's kind of poignant, this story, because here's an individual who's working for a big company, quite heavily involved in being, in promoting and being a visible trans person, and is now, taken a life because of the pressure she was under.
I mean, when you put yourself forward to do something like that, it's like I think it's a really positive thing to show younger people perhaps that you could live a life, but you also put yourself in the line of fire, because last year they asked me to do Trans Day Visibility with work, and I did that thing, and it got me loads of hate on Twitter just for being visible in uniform.
Yeah.
And it's like this year they've asked me, because they know what happened to me. They knew what happened, and they said we're not going to do it this year. And I'm sad about that. I said ask somebody else to do it. Just ask. There must be another trans person. I can ask about it for you if you want. But I'm thinking, God, I feel a bit bad about putting somebody forward for it, because maybe they can't take that backlash the way I can. So if I did approach somebody and say, would you want to be part of Trans Day Visibility? I have to caveat that by saying, look, if you do it, and because it's going to go on Twitter, there's going to be a lot of backlash. So I'm just warning you. I shouldn't have to do that.
I think most trans people I know are fully aware of it, because they've all experienced it at some point.
Because the only reason I do it is because when I was younger, I didn't see anybody doing anything. You saw trans people, but you're either like a celebrity kind of trans person, or a victim kind of trans person, or some kind of exotic being. So I never saw anybody just doing a normal job or doing something that I thought I could do. So that's why I think it's important that young people see it. But then I'm not saying this is why Kayleigh Scott did this, but I'm thinking the amount of extra visibility it gives you puts you in the line of abuse, and that can't be a good thing. So there's like a balance there with putting yourself out there and being a voice, and then accepting, because you do have to accept. Like I spoke to India Willoughby about this, because I remember saying to her, I don't know how you do it, because the amount of shit, the amount of hate you get, and she goes, you know what? I don't see it anymore. I don't see it. It's like the only people I care about is people closest to me. And I think that's all you can do, really, isn't it? And I hope that people who are visible and are out there do have good friends and family, because that's all it's going to rest on at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, it's another tragic story.
So prayers for
Yeah.
Kayleigh Scott, and hope she's flying a United flight up to the heavens.
Yeah.
So another Church of England.
Another Church of England story.
Coming up. Yes. Did you hear about this King Charles? Sorry, you can go and visit Westminster, where he's going to be coronated. Is that the right word? Coronated. And but you can't. You've got to take your shoes off, but you can walk on the sacred ground, apparently. So can we go there? You can coronate me. Some sacred ground, especially for coronations in Westminster Abbey, I think. And it's like this, where every king and queen has ever been, what do you call it? Coronated. You don't look particularly impressed.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, my opinion of royal families and stuff like that.
I like the royal history. I love watching.
I mean, it's some bizarre history, yeah. But so this is a bit of a weird one. Church of England can't be fixed by MPs. They should be de-established. They should de-establish it instead. Now, I kind of agree with de-establishing the Church of England, because why do we have a religious organisation which is kind of embedded into politics, as the official religion? I don't believe we should have that. We should have complete separation of politics, state and church.
Me too, but I mean, it's like in the House of Lords, you've got bishops, haven't you?
Yeah, well, it's all appointed by these guys. Gives them power. It gives the church power in the House of Lords. So,
but then again, don't the Church of England come under fire sometimes? Because I mean, I don't know if it's just the Church of England, but sometimes you'll read a story about, LGBT rights, and the church saying, "Oh, we need to support gay marriage" and things like that. And traditionally, I think the Church of England, they do have some quite. You can be a female priest now, can't you? And you can't you be? I don't know what the rules are.
You can, but they still won't marry you. They still won't marry same-sex people.
I don't know, but because sometimes the way that the Pope, I know it's different with the Pope because that's the Catholic Church, but you sometimes feel like they say, right, you don't have to believe in God anymore. As long as you do as you're told and do what we want, don't worry about the God bit.
Well, I don't worry about it anyway. But okay, let me just read a bit of this out. So
instead of Jesus do?
Ask Jesus. Instead of trying to make the Church of England embrace same-sex marriage, Parliament should separate church and state by beginning disestablishment, argues Stephen Evans, CEO of the National Secular Society, and I agree with that.
I mean, a CEO of a secular society.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're in support of separation of church and state. Last week, a group of respected parliamentarians, led by Ben Bradshaw MP, brought forward a bill to allow same-sex marriages in the Church of England. Unlike other religious organisations, the Church of England is explicitly banned from holding same-sex marriages by Parliament. The arrangement was part of a quadruple lock to prevent the Church from potential legal challenges when same-sex marriage was legalised. So that was a kind of a backdoor method of, preventing the Church from being sued for not allowing something that the law allows. It's kind of like a built-in protection for, a loophole for the Church. This was felt necessary because, again, like other religious organisations, the Church is legally obligated to marry all those who reside within a parish. There was clearly a tension between this duty and the opposition to same-sex marriage. I'm all for this separation thing. I think it's ridiculous, the amount of power and, how much the Church is ingrained in our society. With, and then with the royal family, the king or queen, the monarch being the head of the church, appointing lords into the House of Lords, all through the power of the church. You need to stop all that nonsense. It's just.
Well, it's kind of become like we think we've become less and less religious. I think generally the public have, like less and less people go to church, less and less people.
But we're supposed to be a multicultural society and
But
embrace people who have no religion.
But when it comes to marriage, baptism, funerals and stuff, that's when, people kind of go to church and they kind of have that connection to it. But I mean, it's for me, it's totally political, isn't it? It's nothing to do with like a belief in anything spiritual or holy. It's about controlling the firm, like the Church of England as a
Okay, so but the thing is, the church is still refusing to allow same-sex marriages, and this is a way to try and make them do it by de-establishing them.
Yeah.
And then the law that protects them from not being sued goes away, so then they would be forced to do it.
Yeah, but would you want to be part of the Church of England where you feel like the only reason they're marrying you is because you're forced to do it?
No, I mean, I think the whole thing was to try and push them towards doing it voluntarily, rather than trying to de-establish them or.
But you're always going to get
make
people,
them do it.
like, I'm sure, like, this is why you get like different branches of churches and different breakaway groups.
Because I know.
Because they'll say, oh, we can be part of the church, and
we'll just go so make our own church, make our own rules.
And it's like, because people still, whatever people need to feel a part of, they're going to be gay, straight, trans, whatever. They just
okay, but don't come preaching at me, Church of England people, based on your beliefs, and expect me to, bow down to you because you're part of the establishment. I refuse to accept you. Don't believe in you. Don't do it. You will be rejected.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can understand why people want to be married religiously.
No, but if I wanted to get married, same-sex marriage, I can't do that. I couldn't do that in a church. I don't know if they have any rules around trans people getting married.
Well, you'd have to marry.
I mean, does it depend on having a GRC in a church situation? I don't know.
Well, you could
do
marry
they recognise
a man,
GRC in the church?
You could marry a woman, but you'd have to recognise yourself as male.
Yeah, well, I can't do that because I'm female on my birth certificate.
Exactly.
It's just totally bizarre, isn't it? So stupid.
That's why I'm a pagan.
This is why people don't go to church. Okay. What's our next story?
Go on, mate. I don't know about that. I just think the Church of England. I just wish they'd all piss off.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, just piss off. Next story. Okay, we're back on the travels again. We're over in Canada now.
Oh, we're flying to Canada now.
Flying to Canada from the Church of England, wherever that was.
Put some jet plane sound effects on.
Canada's first LGBTQ trade mission to the UK highlights opportunities for LGBTQ-owned businesses. So this is probably a bit of a corporate-y flavoured story.
I'm yawning already at this one.
Huh?
I'm yawning already at this one.
Yes, like we had a very corporate-y one at the time, didn't we?
You like these, don't you? Because you're from Canada.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to promote, how good Canada is because they are the number one safe place to travel for LGBT people. So, we should give them a bit of a boost, shouldn't we? So, in the first of its kind, LGBT trade mission from Canada has visited the UK to talk about the opportunities available for and challenges faced by LGBTQ-owned businesses. The event, hosted by Canada's LGBT Chamber of Commerce and its UK counterpart Out Britain, featured speakers from both UK and Canada and Canadian governments, along with corporate partners from Apple, Amazon, Fidelity International, Dow Chemicals, etc. Historic moment for Canada's LGBT businesses that we are proud to be promoting and supporting their growth internationally. Canada does these kind of things. I can't imagine the UK government doing this around the world. Can you? Can you imagine the UK sending doing an event like this, going to other countries to promote LGBT businesses in the UK? I just can't see them doing it.
No, because there'd be no funding for it. There'd be no.
So Canada boasts over 100,000 LGBTQ-owned businesses that generate over $22 billion in annual revenue and employ nearly 500,000 Canadians. So there you go.
That's good.
Yeah, good old Canada.
So, I mean, this sounds like a positive story, but I don't really fully understand like what, because like are these like when they say queer-owned business, small businesses and stuff, are these like businesses that cater to the LGBT community, or are they just?
I think it's both. I think it's are owned by.
Nothing really to do with being lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, or queer, are they really? It's like.
Well, I mean, I think some of them are owned and operated by LGBT people, and they do a lot of work in the community for those groups. So, I mean, there's some stats here. Let's just read out some of these. So, 1 in 5 LGBTQ-owned businesses continues to face challenges abroad due to their being part of the community. So, that, I mean, that's an owned business. 1 in 3 LGBTQ-owned businesses have purposefully hidden their LGBTQ status. 1 in 3 has faced discrimination because of being LGBTQ. 1 in 4 have lost contacts due to LGBTQ ownership. 1 in 5 found it difficult to access mentorship and coaching. So, there are some pretty negative stats there around, what goes on.
Well, if they can make the world better for trans people, that's all good with me.
Exactly. And, it just shows that there are lots of businesses
also it
owned,
shows
and they produce 22 billion.
It's a good way to demonstrate how far behind the UK is.
Yeah, I'd like to see the UK figures compared to those.
I mean, I don't know.
We even keep them.
I don't know if you can talk about your organisation and stuff like that, but like, I suppose it's different with mine because my like where I work with very sort of community driven anyway. But like, I mean, if you work for a big corporate organisation, I would imagine it'd be quite difficult to organise this kind of thing if you've not got a boss, or you what you call your directors and stuff like that are not LGBTQ aware or not even bothered. I imagine it's quite difficult.
Well, I mean, I have to face that problem at work. There's nobody in high management who are openly LGBTQ. So when I have conversations with them when I'm talking about D&I stuff, I find that most of the time I'm trying to educate them into what it all means.
You shouldn't have to do that.
Shouldn't have to, no.
Get some diversity training.
Yeah, that's what we need. Compulsory. So this company out Britain, I need to look into that and see what they do, because they sound like a very positive organisation, similar to the Chamber of Commerce for Canada.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, have a look at that. Next one. This is to do with the travel thing we were going to do, and we've been on a bit of a trip around the world today, anyway.
Yeah.
So this next one is
international.
There's a trans lady called Erin Reed. She has created a map of the US showing where trans people can live safely.
Right. Yeah, and the redder the state.
The redder the state, the worse it is. Yeah. So a new map has been created by transgender activists outlining the anti-trans legislative risks across the US. The map is by activist Erin Reed, an independent reporter and content creator, and provides a breakdown of anti-trans legislation across all 50 states. With more and more trans people worried about their own safety due to the rise in anti-trans legislation plaguing the US, the new map enables users to quickly figure out whether their home state is a safe option.
It tends to be the bottom.
So I'm going to just move the map into the window.
East of the country that is.
So there's the map.
West.
So what's in red? What's in
Florida
red
the
there
south.
is like don't go. What's in pale blue and blue are the safer states. Darker the blue, the safer it is. So it looks like what it looks like to me is like West Coast is safe. The only kind of when it starts going bad is Texas, all the way over to Florida, which we know is really bad. So all those southern states, the traditional southern states where all the rednecks live, they're all dark red. And then the northern ones are kind of less dark, kind of almost a pinky red. or blue. So the safe areas are the northeast, which is where you find the big cities like New York and Boston.
I'm really disappointed.
I'm disappointed in Florida.
Because like when I was younger, I mean, I don't know if it's perhaps still did till recently, but I think of Florida and I think of like Cape Canaveral and Donald Duck. It's like I just think of Disney and Rocket.
Well, you're forgetting Ron DeSantis.
Rhonda Sanchez, yeah.
Ron DeSantis.
You're putting the D in the wrong place there. It's Rhonda.
Well, I'm calling Ron. I'm calling Rhonda.
Rhonda Santis.
So it's Rhonda DeSantis instead of Ron DeSantis.
You're putting an extra D in.
And I'm doing that deliberately because he hates trans people. So I'm disrespecting.
Rhonda Sanchez. So, yeah. So it's like the South, isn't it? I mean, that's kind of expected.
It is. It is.
But it's got worse. It has got
getting worse, though. I mean, we were talking about this the other day, weren't we? Like the number of anti-trans laws that have been going through.
Yeah, but it's
over 300 already this year.
There's a recent law where they're trying to stop people wearing, like they were trying to stop drag performers in public.
Yeah.
So if anybody perceives you to be wearing female attire and you're actually male, you can actually that could be a criminal offence.
Yeah.
You know, it's like ridiculous.
I mean, but it's really going to destroy Florida's tourism industry. That's a huge number of people go there for tourism. If it starts becoming a place where LGBT people can't go because of the way they're treated, and I know a lot of LGBT people do go there because of the freedoms especially in South Florida. There's loads of kind of gay clubs and gay scene down there. People are just going to not go anymore, and it's going to affect their economy.
Yeah, of course it is. But see, what you'll always see is, I don't know if you saw it, but Bill Maher.
Yeah.
And he kind of publicised it. Was like this map, and it was showing you where there's more trans and non-binary people, and they said, look at this. It's because they're all liberal. Like there's more gay and there's more trans people in California. It's like, no, it's because they're all running away from Texas. They're all running away.
They're running away. All those red states is where they're running away from.
And nobody's going to fill in a form where you're asked to do a survey in one of those states in case somebody comes after you.
But it's not just people who will be leaving. Big business will be leaving those states too because they don't want to be associated with those kind of places. They will relocate their HQs and factories into the states that are more supportive of everybody. It's like America's becoming two separate countries, isn't it? I mean, you've got like the blues and the reds. I mean, it's really getting very kind of obvious. Some states are safe, some aren't.
You've got to look at this like as a whole, though, because like on this map, it looks pretty horrible, doesn't it? Like as if you lived in Florida, you'd just forget about being trans. But obviously, there's going to be communities in those states that are positive, and it's like if somebody drew a map of England and decided, right, where's it most safe to be trans? Probably Farnworth wouldn't be one of them, but it's where I live, and I know some lovely people.
But I mean, if you look at Florida, if you look at Broward County in Florida, Fort Lauderdale, there's a place there, Wilton Manors, which it has the highest population of LGBT residents in the whole of the US.
Wow.
And they're really, the people living there are going to be pretty worried about what's going on with Rhonda.
I'd
move out. Yeah, you see, if they all moved out, they'd be taking billions of dollars worth of wealth with them.
That's assuming they have that everybody there has the mobility to move. Like it's I know different.
Obviously.
I know it's a different thing, but I remember like where I live now is just 15 minutes away from Manchester, right? In a car, but the wealth difference, like as soon as I hit Manchester, I'm driving around properties that are like £2,000 a month to rent, right? And even just down the road in Salford, you could probably walk it in about 5 minutes. There are flats there, council flats, run-down areas, and that poverty line is very, very stark now. So I'm thinking about places like this. They'll be really, culturally enriched, urban areas where everybody's like a hipster and dead cool, and there's lots of money flying around, and everybody's partying. But just down the road, you wouldn't walk it. You wouldn't walk home to Salford. you know what I mean? Because you're going to get beaten up. And that's one of the realities of living in. So this map, even though it's probably indicative of something, I think it's a massive oversimplification.
Oh yeah, it is. I mean, within South Florida, and there's loads of positive stuff.
Because I know people like.
But you know, when they're changing laws at the state level that affect you in your daily life, like you can't do this, you can't do that. That's the problem. Exactly, then you start thinking, right, well, I'm getting out of this hellhole, you know.
Yeah, but you just gotta hope there's enough people still there to fight the fight, because, like, when you see people like banning drag queens from doing shows and calling them groomers and all these people that are like they're absolutely insane. Some of them, the kind of things that they say.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I mean, we don't know the statistics about crimes, exact crimes on LGBT people, but I'm not. Don't think I'm wrong in suggesting that they're going up. If this map's anything to go by. So it's like, what kind of world do you want to live in? Because like in a way, like the people that vote for people like DeSantis are people that are frightened. They're frightened that the world is changing in a way they don't want it to change. But the whole thing is like constantly.
But none of it's based. None of all these new laws. They're not based on reality. They're not based on fact.
No, they're based on.
It's all based on, the Republican fear machine.
Exactly, like they'll go on about TikTok as if TikTok's the reason why the kids are.
But I can see Rhonda being the replacement for Trump. It looks like that. It's going that way.
I mean,
God help him.
There's going to be massive uprising against that.
There will.
Because it makes. I mean, if you think about it, like the amount of protests against Trump, it's going to pale into insignificance. Because even like what I've read about DeSantis and what I've seen happening in America over the last few months, it makes Trump look a bit of a lovable rogue. Do you know what I mean? I know he's a complete arse, and I know he's done a lot of the groundwork, damage in Congress. But beware of people that seem moderate. Beware of people that seem, because at least with Trump, you knew he was.
Yeah, you know what you get with Trump, don't you?
He was like a sort of loose cannon. He was like. There was a sort of comedy element to Trump, but not this guy. This guy's the real deal, and I don't.
You see, this guy in Florida, he kind of preys on South American people's religion too, because he always brings religion into it, and religious Christian values.
Yeah,
and that's how he gets that's how he gets the South American vote, because there's a huge population of South Americans living in the Miami area, South Florida, and they typically vote Republican because of religious reasons. So he kind of uses that to his advantage.
Yeah, and also
it doesn't mean he helps them at all.
You'll see a lot of organisations called like the Family Party and Safe Schools and this kind of thing, and they've copied that tactic straight out of the American
but most of those
playbook.
kind of organisations come out of places like Texas,
exactly.
And the kind of like the Midwest. But that's very much. It's completely different to what goes on in South Florida, because it's a very South American vibe, but it's strongly religious. It's Catholic religious, so there's lots of anti-LGBT around religious reasons, I think. And then they see somebody like DeSantis, and they say, "Oh yeah, we'll vote for him because he agrees with us on this issue." He's just going. He's just going insane with laws at the moment.
What's really frightening to me is how easy it is to
manipulate the people.
To manipulate people, because people go along with things, and it's like we saw it with Brexit. That was the most kind of nationalistic I've ever seen people be in this country. And I'm thinking, you've always had those fringe people that were flag wavers, and they were kind of, they'd turn up for St. George's Day or something, but they were always a kind of fringe movement. But then they became this kind of, everybody's.
And have you noticed I was reading something the other day around about Keir Starmer and how he's now viewed as being more right than Theresa May.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like,
well, didn't he
how the
say
hell did
something
that
about?
happen?
He said something this week. He evoked Thatcher. He said one of the central themes of government was honesty, and that was one of Thatcher's policies. Or something.
But it's like, like the Conservatives going far right, and Keir Starmer's Labour is going right as well. Yeah, it's
so they're not they're not even centrist.
They're all going right. Like even the left wing parties in the UK are going right wing now.
That's why we need somebody like Mick Lynch.
Yes, Mick Lynch, get him in.
We need because like I said before, for somebody like Mick Lynch, right? When it comes to trans issues and anything like that, he'd be the guy that says, "Look, mate, I don't got a fucking clue what you're talking about. Have we done a risk assessment?" And that'd be it. That'd be his approach, and that's what I like about him. It's like he said, I'll get Billy Bragg to have a word. Do you know what I mean? It'd be like that. Be like, but this government, they're embedded in like identity politics now. So everything is, everything's ramped up to 11. So whenever they try and have a debate about gender identity or anything like that, it just becomes a nonsense. Like on Question Time, where you end up with people, saying stupid things like, "Can women have penises?" It's like, Christ, but everything's comedy now when you get to that level.
So you remember the Lesbian Project?
Oh yeah, the Lesbian Project. How many lesbians have they caught?
I don't know, but there's been an interesting development. Hundreds of LGBTQ plus women tell trans-exclusionary Lesbian Project, "You do not represent us." So there's been a open letter that's been put out by
Lesbian and Queer Solidarity.
Yeah, that's been signed by over 800 people, denouncing the trans-exclusionary group as not reflective of trans lives, needs and community of lesbians. So the open letter was penned by the group Trans Lesbian Solidarity and has received hundreds of signatures in 48 hours, as well as support from singer Billy Bragg, Oxford University Student Union and campaign group Speak Out Sister. So have you signed up? Have you signed it? I have.
Yeah, I have now, yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know what's going on with the Lesbian Project, but Kathleen Stock and Julie Bindel seems to have fizzled a bit, hasn't it? It's never going to go anywhere, but it's kind of
what's
fizzling already.
Test? What's the test of their lesbian
No, but you've got mainstream inclusive lesbians signing already days after it was launched, to condemning it. So it's it's going nowhere.
It's because they recognise that it's only there as a lobby group to create division. It's it's just another kind of LGB alliance kind of project where, the pretense is that they want their own. They feel they have the right to their own group that just represents lesbians, which is fine on the surface. You can see why that might be a thing. But when you peel back just a couple of layers of it, you understand that, the reason... Well, we know Kathleen Stock and Julie Bindel are for a start. They're not coming at it from a good faith, are they? They're not clear that,
So, this group, Trans Lesbian Solidarity, what they've posted on Twitter is, as lesbians, the Lesbian Project is #not for us. We are tired of trans-exclusionary groups thinking they can speak for us. We don't believe that advocating for lesbian needs can be done when it's rooted in transphobia. And then there's this, please sign the open letter.
Yeah. Well, see, like when you listen to Julie Bindel or Kathleen Stock speak, they don't advocate for anything. It's all about the things they're against. And it's really easy to be against things because you don't have to do any activism. You just have to moan. and say, because what they say a lot is, oh, trans women are the idea is in their mind is that trans women are taking over or taking something away from them. It's not happening, you know.
Well, they go on to say, the letter says, our community is beautiful precisely because it's made up of gender non-conforming lesbians, trans lesbians, non-binary lesbians, butches, studs, femmes, lesbians of all kinds who make up a tapestry more vibrant than you can imagine. Our community is beautiful because it's held together by love, not hate. So there you go.
Yeah.
Get it signed.
Well, that's it. That's, you know, because if you start partitioning different bits of the LGBT rainbow off, that goes against everything that it's supposed to stand for in the first place.
Exactly.
You know, we have to be united
to fight the real causes.
Yeah, exactly. We can't be like, oh, well, that's a lesbian issue, that's a gay issue, this is a trans issue. We only deal with trans issues here. Sorry, our door is closed. You know, it's like, no, because
that's not going to work.
I know, because when I'm at the LGBT Foundation, that those rooms are full of people from all kinds of different backgrounds.
from the whole thing.
You know. Oh, that's the lesbian room over there.
Yeah, you have to go over there. And you're not allowed to use that. You can only use that.
And if you want to go in the lesbian room, you've got to bring Kathleen Stock and fill in a questionnaire about how to be a lesbian.
Oh God!
I'm like, Kathleen, sit down, love. You know, didn't she used to be married and she got children? I mean, I'm not sure what kind of she's bisexual in any sense. I don't know, but it's like let's just not. Right. I can understand there's this argument sometimes from straight people, and they go, oh, LGBTQI, blah, 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 I can't keep up with all these letters. Oh, it's all too confusing. Oh. Yes, okay, it's a little bit, it can get a bit too minutiae, it can get a bit, but all it is really is like, you know, we've got a bunch of people, and we all come under the rainbow umbrella, and whatever you are, you're welcome. And that's
exactly, it. That's it.
As long as you're not Julie Bindle, you're welcome.
And then our last story today is about a trans hairdresser who ditches archaic gender price lists to help people be their true selves.
Yeah, so gender price.
I thought this was a nice little story to end on. It's trans hairdresser has ditched gender price lists to promote equality and inclusion. Melissa Hamilton charges her clients based on what they need rather than their gender, going away with the concept of men's and women's price lists. Women's haircuts are traditionally far more expensive than men's, as well as making things far more equitable. Melissa says that gender-neutral price list makes the salon more approachable to gender non-conforming clients. So, you know, she's done this obviously to be more inclusive and make it kind of, doesn't matter if you've got long or short hair, if you need a haircut, come in here and I'll sort you out. And it's going to cost you the same no matter who you are.
Yeah,
I think it's great.
In the olden days, like when every man got a short back and sides and every woman got a perm, you'd have to have different prices because obviously one takes longer than the other.
But if you're both having the same, if you a man and a woman both having exactly the same thing, the woman will be charged double. You know.
Exactly, but I'm saying like in like.
But if the man wanted to have the perm, well, yeah, okay, we'll pay the perm price.
But it's like that's the thing that
it's better to have. But it's what they kind of equate this to make it make more sense is that when you go to a dentist, you're not charged a different price because you're a man or a woman or non-binary. You know.
Yeah, but I was just going to say there's no gender delineation with a dentist. Well, you do get barbers and you do get hairdressers.
Yeah, but lots of people have crazy hairstyles, don't they? So
yeah, so I'm thinking,
how do you determine what to charge based on gender because someone has a different hairstyle? It doesn't really make sense.
That's why a lot of men always come out with the same bloody haircut because they just
think, all right,
yeah, it's like. Although it is when you see a guy with lovely long hair and he looks like a Viking, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, he's not going to your local barbershop.
How'd you get your hair like that? And you go, I never cut it, I never touch it, I don't wash it. It's like, great. No, there's a guy I know. I was out last couple of Saturdays ago. Or was it last Saturday? Yeah. And he had went to this like heavy metal kind of revival night. It was like a tribute band thing with and they were playing like classic rock, and there was this guy And it was like, do you know that thing that we were talking about doing? You know, when white people go up to black people and start touching their hair. I saw this guy and he had like beautiful long hair, and I was like, oh my God, can I touch it? I was like, no, what am I doing? You know, but I think I just wanted to touch him.
Yeah, it
But,
sounds like close to the truth.
but anyway, I said, oh God, how'd you get your hair so? And I thought, what am I doing? What am I saying here?
So anyway, shout out to Melissa. The salon's called Melissa Hair. It's in East Wittering in Chichester. So a bit of a drive for us, Freda, but
We'll
happy
support
to
her
promote
anyway.
it.
Yeah. So, where'd you get your hair cut?
Where do I get my hair cut?
I got a boat.
I go to a place in Lytham.
Mm.
It's called Hair and Beauty.
You see, because the only thing I ever get done, because I'm growing it out and I wear a lot of hair pieces and stuff, is I just get my fringe cut and a bit of a trim. So there's this really lovely lady in Bolton Market, and it's only a £5, and I'm like, I have a little chat with her and the other ladies. I don't need anything nice. I don't need anything fancy.
Okay, so yeah, I go to this place called House of Hair and Beauty in Lytham. And
House of Hair.
House of Hair and Beauty. So they do
House of Hairy Beauty.
They do nails.
You
they
a
do
hairy
hair.
beauty.
They do all kinds of facial treatments. It's run by a couple of sisters, Natalie and Bethany, and it's really good. So
There we go.
get yourselves over there. Give them a little plug. Well, what's the place you go to called?
It's called Cuts.
Cuts in Bolton.
Oh, it's a lovely lady. Does Donna? It's usually old ladies that go. I think I went because my mum recommended. My mum says, "Oh, I know this nice little." Because I said all I want is my fringe cutting. I don't want to go and book a salon and then just have my fringe cut. So, no, why didn't you come and see? My hairdresser. And I said, all right, go on then. And I was fully expecting it to be
You expected a
terrible.
blue rinse?
Yeah, well, that kind of place. But it is that kind of place. But she's dead nice. And I had a little chat with her. And she told me she had I think it was a niece or nephew who's talking about being non-binary. And I thought, oh, God, this is a bit of a weird conversation to be having. Because obviously I spoke to her about being trans. But it was nice, It's like a really nice conversation. And she was a bit old school about it. It was, oh, everybody's weird and non-binary now, aren't they? No, not really. No.
Not everybody, no.
It's funny the conversations you have with people. When if I talk about being trans, I sometimes just talk about it, and people ask me, and it's fine, and have some interesting conversations. But what we're talking about haircuts, yeah. So I just buy my hair and plug it in, so it's easy. I tie my hair in a knot and then plank things on top of it.
Plug it in, so you can have different sockets, different styles.
Yeah. It's like it's just a clip, and then different hair. Sometimes it's curly. If I want it longer, I can just put a longer one in. My natural hair is about your length.
What, this?
Yeah. And I did think about getting hair extensions, proper ones, but they're really expensive.
They are expensive, yeah.
And it's like, oh God, and then you have to keep going back to have it redone. So it's a bit of a commitment, that. So no, I prefer this.
Oh, you can spend a fortune. You really can.
Hair and beauty tips.
Yeah, there you go.
Go to Bolton Market.
Go to Bolton Market, or you can go up Market in Lytham.
No, I've got not as posh as you, Victoria.
No, but whilst you're there, you can go and get yourself a nice coffee and a lunch and do a bit of shopping.
Well, you could
probably do that in Bolton.
I'd tell you, Bolton Market is the only place you can buy some cheap perfume, get your nails done, get your hair done, buy a crab and any exotica from the sea at Bolton Fish Market.
Oh yeah, you did that, don't you? Didn't you buy some oysters recently?
Oysters, cheese.
Did you get your oyster knife? How did you open them in the end?
I bashed it against the.
You get a hammer and chisel out.
Worktop. I wasn't too impressed with the oysters, actually.
Yeah, well, you're not supposed to cook them.
No, I got a recipe where you boil them.
Supposed to eat them raw.
Anyway, so yeah, I've said Bolton Market. Yeah, it's where it's happening. I've had to sort of get used to that though, because I was used to being in Manchester where everything's a bit swish and You know, a bit metrosexual now. And then because I moved back to Bolton, I can't always get into Manchester to get my hair done or do my nails or.
So the new thing seems to be everybody seems to be calling coffee shops hipster coffee shops now. I don't know where this hipster thing's come from, but it's like, oh, you go to those hipster coffee shops.
Yeah.
No, I just go for a coffee. I don't go to a hipster coffee shop. I just go to a nice coffee shop.
Like if you go to Costa or Starbucks, that's not a hipster.
Well, those are corporate.
A hipster coffee shop is
an independent coffee shop that has nice artwork on the walls and stuff.
Yeah, it's also an art gallery, and you're served by a bearded man with a suede apron.
Yeah.
And he plays background jazz.
Yeah.
That's a hipster
coffee shop. Yeah.
And there might be a poet on the weekend.
But they just used to be called independent coffee shops. Now, for some reason, they're being called hipster coffee shops. I don't know.
Well,
it's becoming a derogatory term.
We've gone off on a bit of a tangent.
No, but it's becoming a derogatory term. How dare you?
No.
How dare you speak badly about my coffee shops?
I mean, it's like the difference between a pub. You know, people say, let's go to the pub. And it's like, let's go to the bar. Or like in Manchester, like they have these people, you know, they're like real ale aficionados. And they're quite young, and they all wear flat caps. and what they say is, "I want an authentic drinking experience."
Yeah, okay, they're hipsters, definitely.
Yeah, have a pint of mild and shut up. No, but I went. It's got the Castle, I think it's called, in Manchester, and I went in, and I do like a beer, you know.
Bit pretentious, is it?
And it's not pretentious, it's just the choice is immense now. So I said, can I just have a dark beer, like a Guinness? And it's, we've got like 6.
Here's a list of 100. Can you choose one? Yeah,
here's the menu. I said, well, what is the strongest?
It's like that thing about having a drinks menu. You remember like 20 years ago, you went in the pub and you asked for a drinks menu. They think you've gone insane.
Yeah. Can I see the wine list?
It's like mild, bitter, or lager. That's it. What do you want?
Well, I mean, there are so many. That's what I like about Manchester now, though. There's those kind of pubs that are like proper pubs. Bit spit and sawdust have still got that kind of sweaty kind of atmosphere and a bit of sticky carpet. And then you've got like really trendy bars with chrome surfaces. And it's like there's a bit of everything.
Yeah.
So on that, I think if we should be working for the tourist board.
We should. I mean, we've done a tour of the world today.
I think we're gonna do next week. We're definitely gonna do a live podcast about tourism and where to go.
Tourism and travel and safety.
If you're a trans girl traveling alone, don't miss it. Because I'm gonna do that actually. I've been thinking about doing a bit of traveling, but I've got to have time off work for my boob job, so I might.
Yeah, I was going to say, got to get your boobs first. Yeah. Anyway, on that note,
on that bombshell,
it's time to say bye for now. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to share. Are we doing the song? Yes, go on.
We're ready. 1, 2, 3.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Nearly. I think there's a delay on the.
I think you're out of tune.
Well, bye for now.
Bye for now. Oh, when's our next one? We don't know. Is it Tuesday or is it Thursday? And we've got an interview one coming up as well. So I'm still editing that. So anyway.
Yeah.
Bye.